I'm Luke Summerhaze.
I'm James J. Boyles.
I'm Andrew Rice.
And I am Mus.
And you're listening to the triumphant return of Monster Mash.
Ooh.
Whoop whoop!
This is out of the police.
And on this week's episode, we are going to be chatting about all the big Monster Hunter news that we have not spoken about in audio form.
And also, I guess, letting you know who we are, because we've been away for like 2 years.
Has it been 2
It hasn't
years?
been- no, it's not been 2 years.
I've been at this job for 2 years, and it was shortly after I started this job that you lot packed it in. Admittedly, because I let the subscription run out, but... And in that time, I've slowly re-listened to all of them. I just finished this week.
Was
you
it any
actually
good?
re-listened to them?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, apart from the first 20 where the audio's gash. It's been more than 2 years. It's been 2 years and a month.
Oh,
Jeez.
oh dear. Well, there you go. Well, we're back.
So, this is a podcast where we talk about the monsters from Monster Hunter, apart from this week, when we're not.
Yes, we're talking about how we re-listen to our own podcast because we are that in love with
We're
ourselves.
vain. Yeah, we're vain as fuck.
I mean, I am a very handsome man, and I do have very good opinions.
Should we talk about World? We talked about World, surely.
A little,
by
but like,
virtue of...
we talked about it when it had just come out, but I feel like opinions changed a lot in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I'd be quite interested to hear what my opinions were back at the time, because right now, thinking ahead about how we've got to go and fight Zora Magdaros very soon and other such monsters, I cannot stand the idea of launching that game up again. Is the simple answer.
You were pretty into playing it. You were from the beginning pretty down on how it's all laid out.
Yeah, I think that since then I've just grown some kind of anxiety or fear around it, and I just like the very idea of turning that game on right now is not an appealing one.
Is that just because it's pumped full of all that Destiny shit?
I think probably a big part of it, yeah. But I mean, I love Destiny shit is the thing, but the way that game is structured, it just makes me not enjoy playing it. And you know, I think the weapons weren't great, even with Iceborne's expansion. I don't think it did enough to rectify that, and I really, really just hate those maps. Like it doesn't feel enough like a Monster Hunter game to me. So I'm very much looking forward to hopefully Rise going more towards a traditional place.
Because I played it for like those 30 odd hours in the first week, then sold my Xbox and flew to Japan, and I've just lived it vicariously since then.
I think actually that's probably the best way to have experienced this game, to be honest, because the first 30 hours are brilliant. Like, you're in this whole new world, it's new combat, new monsters being thrown at you. Like, it's so exciting and new and fresh. And then, unfortunately, the more you play that game, the less exciting the end game, I think, is than it's traditionally been.
Whereas on the other hand,
I'm
still playing Generations Ultimate, and that's the opposite. Getting into that game is a nightmare. But now I'm at the point where even just throwing it on and helping other people with their quests is just always a great time.
Yeah, that's my kind of main problem with World. Like, I think mechanically, like from a combat standpoint, it is just leaps and bounds ahead of the older games. I think the improvements they made with like how each weapon feels, and it's made me try out like so many different weapons rather than just sticking to the one that I felt comfortable with and got to know in the old games. There's some problems with how the maps are laid out. Like, I don't think the Ancient Forest is particularly well designed, but the fact there's no kind of loading zones between each areas, the way the monsters roam around the maps, the world feels a lot more alive in that sense, and I think all those improvements really, really make for a great... I still think it's a great Monster Hunter game, but I don't disagree with the fact that the end game is not the best in this. Like, I don't think grinding for decorations and when we come to Iceborne, the guiding land stuff, I didn't find that very engaging at all, and I've not really stuck around for the end game too much.
I totally forgot about the guiding lands. I totally forgot that even existed until you said it.
Having said that, I'm looking at my playtime right now on the main menu, and it is still 250 hours. So clearly, it did enough for me to play this game for that length of time. But yeah, I do think it doesn't have the same long-lasting appeal that the older series definitely had.
But it might have been a game that was a little bit easier to get into for someone like me who had never really got into a Monster Hunter game before. I think having the the monsters, having a sense of the world, without the loading times, and the fact that monsters would interact with each other quite naturally, I think gave you a good sense that you were in a thriving ecosystem, and that you had to kill everything in it, like David Attenborough's evil uncle or something, which was good. And like Jay says, I think it was easy to experiment with a variety of weapons and stuff and get into. But I think once Iceborne, or around that time, that's kind of just before it dropped, I think is when I stopped playing it. I haven't been back to it since. But while it was going, it was really good, and it was a lot easier, I think, to get into than Monster Hunter 4, which is the last one I tried on my own, personally.
I'm curious as to if that is partially like how that is impacted by, I guess, the single player multiplayer split, because that's to me is one of the biggest things that I didn't enjoy with World, is that all progress is made regardless of whether you're playing single player or multiplayer. So I didn't have that separate element that was nice and segmented off to play with friends and tackle the hardest challenges together. And that really took away my impact, my enjoyment of it to some degree. Because I normally like going off, playing my own single player hunts, between sessions, doing all my resource grinding and all that kind of thing. Whereas it felt, actually, what's the point? I'm only ticking off quests I'm going to have to repeat later with everyone else. So that took a lot away from me.
Yeah, I think the design of the way the game was laid out, I'm glad we'll talk about this later, but I'm glad they seem to be going back to the roots in terms of how the game was laid out for Rise. And we've not really spoke about the problems that came about if you wanted to actually play the story together with people in
you have to all watch the cutscene separately, then leave and rejoin.
Yes, that's exactly right, and it was just a pain. So it kind of almost, I think, I can't remember if I mentioned this on the forum or that we go on or what have you there, but I did feel that the multiplayer almost got in the way of what was quite a good single player experience.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I don't think that's very Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is all about kicking the arse out of some dinosaurs with your mates,
That's actually quite funny when I think about it, actually, I suppose, because one of the biggest problems with the Avengers game recently was that it had all these live service elements in, and that was really getting in the way of a good single player game. But I guess that Monster Hunter sort of did the same thing. It's just that we think of Monster Hunter as a multiplayer series. So yeah, I guess it's a weirdly similar route. It's just that it wasn't a new IP.
Well, you say that, but I have played a lot of Monster Hunter single player as well. What I'd always loved about it is that it is one of the best games at being both. It's a multiplayer game and a single player game, as much as you want of either.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, when I played World, like I said, just for the first story, I played the whole thing in single player and it was great. Apart from that, it tried to make me buy Xbox Live every time I turned it on.
Yeah, and I think the problem with the way the game was designed is that the multiplayer centric challenges just became just rock solid, almost unfun encounters. Like I've not played any of the newest monsters, but they seem to be doing a lot of kind of MMO things. Like you've got DPS checks where you've got to kill the monster quickly before it kills you all, and just things like that don't really fit in a Monster Hunter game in my view. Which is why I've not really tackled any of the end game Iceborne content, so to speak. But that core loop is still there. It is still Monster Hunter. It's still great upgrading weapons and getting to that end game is great fun. Like Andy said, the first chunk of hours of that game's magic. But I do think this game was definitely more geared towards the newer player, because it's the first Monster Hunter on PlayStation in a long time, and it did capture. Well, it's the best-selling Capcom game of all time, so it's obviously captured a lot of new Monster Hunter fans, and you can't fault it for that. Definitely not.
Since it came out, we had the new Animal Crossing as well, which I feel like did exactly the same thing. It had the best
true, yeah.
30 or 50 hours the series has ever had, and then none of what brought people coming back to the old ones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not huge into Animal Crossing, but it did get me to pick up an Animal Crossing game for the first time.
I mean, did the changes to the game get you to do that, or did COVID get you to do that?
Well, I think it's changed the game, because I was so firmly against it myself that I wouldn't have picked it up normally. Like, I was very anti-Animal Crossing from my previous attempts to get into it, but I think that the route from, you know, having a couple tents around a campfire to evolving into a town was a fantastic way that game sort of got up and running. It's just that once I had my town, once I'd seen the credits roll, I had all my villagers, and there was nothing else to do then. No upgrades to look forward to, no like seasonal events that weren't particularly thrilling. That's where I fell off of Animal Crossing. So I think, they did do a fantastic job of getting things up and running. It's just, it didn't have the staying power.
And one other thing, since we last recorded, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate's come out in English. I don't think that was even announced when we were last mashing.
Really?
I don't think so, no, because I definitely remember us doing Monster Hunter Double Cross.
Well, yeah, we did all of those monsters in Double Cross. And then when World came out, we all just sort of felt like, I guess it's just not happening now.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just like...
I didn't even realise it was after World.
Yeah, the Double Cross was before World, and then we never got Generations Ultimate until like a year into World.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, so we played it like, I guess about 200 hours on the 3DS. I then played it from scratch in Japanese for 160 hours, and I think I played about 150 hours again in English on Switch with my old 3DS character.
I don't think any of us got that far with the English version.
Well, I've been playing it with Matty from work, so I've had the whole experience again with playing with another person. And I just like playing Monster Hunter, and I didn't have World to hand, so... But I can't imagine myself putting that many hours into World.
I think that's reasonable.
I am kind of looking forward to replaying the story, but I can't see myself getting as obsessed with it.
I think because I presume you'll be tackling Iceborne as well, and I think the fact that you've got what is essentially a whole like ultimate version of a game ahead of you, plus the new Iceborne content you've not played before, I think you'll get into it in a big way. I don't know whether you'll tackle all the end game stuff, because I do think it's not very fun. But
luckily, those are all returning monsters, so we can just skip them.
Yes. Yes.
If you're expecting Alatreon 2.0, you ain't getting it, listener.
Yep. Might have Jas say something on it, because I think he's the only one that's actually fought it.
Yeah.
And if Jas were here, I'm sure he would be a lot more positive on the game, because he's put a lot.
That's true. Yeah.
he and which is crazy, because I think he's played probably the most Monster Hunter out of any of us.
He's known as the Monster Hunter guy.
Yeah, and he would be the most positive on the game. So kind of what I was saying, that the game's geared towards newer fans. Yeah, I would say that's still true, but obviously there's still a hook there for existing fans, and it's just whether or not that style of Monster Hunter game and the fights that they put up, like the kind of uber hard content, if that appeals to you or not. Obviously it appeals to Jas in a big way, which is why he's stuck around. Not so much myself, not so much Andy. And
yeah, I think it's the type of fan, right? Like, you get the ones who love getting into the skills and
the
stats,
min-max,
and,
yeah.
Those minus, the small tweaking, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas, we like to play games, build a decent armor set, and crack on and kill lots of monsters. So yeah, I couldn't care less if I have the right set of skills on my armor. I'd rather have something that looks cool than feels cool.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go grab my cup of tea and coffee.
Have you not had it yet?
Well, no, I need to let it stew, mate. I got to stew the brew.
I'm just having some good old H2O.
Me too. I'm very much enjoying my water. I'm going to miss my water cooler.
You're missing your water.
You have a water cooler in your
I will
house?
do.
Have you not?
Yeah,
got a fridge?
it's not like a full. I do have a fridge, but I don't want it tasting like shitty fridge water.
You don't like just chuck the water literally in the fridge and then scoop it out. It is in a vessel of
shit.
sorts.
Is that
Andy.
where we go wrong?
Is that not
No,
what the
right,
bottom
okay,
drawer is for, Mus?
Look, I had a Brita filter, and it always ended up tasting like fridge, and it was disgusting. So I bought a proper water cooler that sits on the side, and it's amazing.
What does fridge even taste like?
Oh, just whatever you had in the fridge. You know what fridge tastes like. You know when you
No,
just,
I don't!
have it slightly open.
No,
You know what
I
fridge
you're
tastes
talking
like.
about.
Everyone knows.
You know when
you
you
go
eat,
down
like-
to. It sounds like some sort of Heston Blumenthal's wacky recipe that never made the cut.
No, right,
This
okay.
is fridge.
The best description I can
Is a
give
fridge.
is if you've got like a 6-pack Melton Mowbray pork pies, so mini pork pies, and you leave that pack slightly open, and like it just sort of absorbs the atmosphere around it. I don't know what it is about pork pies, but it's a very good conductor of.
What the
Fridge.
fuck have I come back to?
And
Jay,
he's
what
talking
does
about
fridge
things going a bit
taste like?
stale in terms of fridges
What-
and pork pies.
Fridge, as in like the milkshake drink? Or...
No,
no, no.
fridge.
Like a fridge,
Andy
the
says
flavour
if he
of
puts
a
water in his fridge, it tastes of fridge.
Honestly,
The
Jay,
match is
as soon as
definitely
you leave
back.
the call, as soon as you leave the call, Andy's IQ drops to sort of a Ralph Wiggum level.
What does fridge taste like?
What
You
fridge
moron!
tastes like fridge?
Christmas Day 2016, we put out the misguided, scripted Christmas special episode.
Was it misguided?
None of you
I don't
stuck
remember
to
that
my
episode,
script
to be
at
fair.
all. You were editing it as we recorded,
Oh,
and you were
Yeah,
Ron
that sounds like
Burgundying
it
all the
was definitely
punctuation.
That sounds like a fantastic episode that I would very much have enjoyed recording.
But
So-
also, all the way back then, we were talking about the rumours of the Monster Hunter film, and it's finally about to come out full 4 years later.
Was it rumoured all the way back
Assume
then?
cinemas
Yeah,
ever
and
open
like
again.
the details as well of like the soldiers going over and the battle at the airport at the end and all of that stuff.
I do remember like a tech demo thing of like, was it a Rathalos and a Gore
Gore
Magala
Magala.
fighting?
Yeah, fighting in a
yeah,
shopping mall.
Yeah. And now we have the real film very soon.
Well, I'm going to just come out and say it right now. I'm pretty sure I'm going to straight up love this film.
I think it looks like a lot of fun. This is a simple answer. Like I think that it looks good fun. I like the way that the monsters have looked so far. Like the Rathalos looks awesome. The Diablos looks great. Yeah, I'm into it.
Do you know what? I think I'm kind of about the same. Like, I think what would have really turned me off this film is if they tried to change the design of the monsters in any major way. Kind of like Sonic version 1 before they kind of updated it. Like if it came out with some sort of Rathalos looking monstrosity, then yeah, there might have been some
Thing is,
some problems with this.
I don't think that was ever going to happen because it's not like Monster Hunter is a cartoony thing, right? Everything's already so well designed and realistic. That's why we have a podcast about these monsters.
Oh yeah, but I mean, you've got to allow for a director to go mad and do whatever the hell
Hollywood
they want.
execs getting, who knows what they'll do.
Honestly, I think I would have liked the Sonic film more with the first effects.
Yeah, I agree.
It would have had that feeling of like the weird 90s film version.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
fair.
I enjoyed the Sonic
I mean, I
film,
enjoyed
so,
it, but I
you know.
didn't love it or anything. Whereas if it had just fully been...
Whereas you'd have fucking loved it if it was a free.
If it had just been the Super Mario Brothers
horror
movie
thing.
again, yeah, I think I would have loved it.
It's that kind of schlocky B-movie feel that you want from this, right? Like, and I think that's what we're going to get. Like, as soon as I saw Mila Jovovich with a machine gun shooting at a Diablos, I was like, strap me in, I'm signed up.
But
Get
what
my
I'm
tickets booked.
what I'm glad about is that
that clearly doesn't work.
we are also getting her being a monster hunter as well.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
If it had
Using
just
Blade or something, right?
been we've taken the
Yes.
monsters and it's going to be just them fighting soldiers, I would have had a problem with it. But having some soldiers as the point of view characters go into the Monster Hunter world, that makes sense, and we're going to get to see things that I can't see in the games.
Like a soldier getting skewered on a Diablos' horse.
Yeah, on a Rathalos, like fucking up a plane.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a bit boring. I want to see an actual soldier skewered.
I do want to see like the 18 rated constant gore version, which would still be watched by kindergartners here in Japan.
The Great Jaggy swallowing a truck hole.
No, not a truck hole, just
What?
Jagras.
A
Just
great
like
Jaggy? How the
Jagras.
fuck would a
I'm not
Jaggy
playing
swallow a truck?
Jagras. I'm not playing Monster Hunter
no,
either, right?
that's not what I want to see, Jay. I want to see it just swallow like T.I.'s arm. And
Then he can get a robot arm. That'd be fantastic.
I'd go with Robot Eye.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the in jokes from our chat on the fucking podcast.
I mean, everyone knows that he tries to look through it with a closed eye, so that's like the number one meme from this film that's gone anywhere.
It's got to be intentional. He must have known, surely. They got to have known. He was
I
using
wish I
robot
had
eye
your
and
faith
not-
in humanity, Mus.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I mean, it's the same director as the Resident Evil movies, and it's definitely that same sort of,
Fanfic where he
Tone
inserts
in
his
it.
own wife.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's going to be silly. It's going to be silly, fun. It's, you know,
Yeah, it's gonna
It's
it's
not
gonna
gonna
all come
be-
down to how faithful it is to the monsters, in addition to
yes.
how bearable, let's say, the banter is between, I think, the military dudes. Some of it.
If
lower
it's somewhere
bit.
in the region of the first Transformers film's military dudes, and the monsters are the monsters from the games, fine. I'll probably watch it 6 times.
I can totally see that.
I think I just want it to be like Jumanji. That's what
The
I...
new one or the
That's what I
original?
was getting.
Which
Sorry, was that a
Jumanji,
question there?
Andy?
So it went wrong. The new ones.
Fair enough. They're all
Transformers.
right.
That's the level of
Interesting,
banter. That's the level I want.
I definitely see the Transformers comparison. Like when you mentioned that, Luke, I definitely see that now being very similar to Monster Hunter in a way. Like,
Well, that first bit in the first trailer of Transformers, the main bit they showed was Scorponok attacking the soldiers in the desert, and the Monoblos scene looks exactly the same.
is that a Monoblos? Is that a Diablos?
Oh yeah, Diablos.
Oh, he's forgot his monsters.
2 horns. Come on.
I'll tell you one of the things I like about it being a modern military outfit that starts randomly getting attacked by these monsters is that it gives the director an excuse to give you a huge sense of like scale on the monsters. So I think you get perhaps a better look at them than you would if it was a bit of a more close quarters type thing with swords right from the off. And then
Yeah.
I think going on that journey of we'll see how well the film does it in terms of how much they actually understand about hunting monsters by the end. But potentially for someone who's never seen Monster Hunter before, going on that journey with them could be quite fun.
What I hope
suppose.
is that philosophically she understands hunting monsters by the end. Because in the trailer she's like, I don't care what those things are, I'm going to kill them.
Mhm.
And that's very much not Monster Hunter.
Yeah, but I
But
think
this
there's
is a Western
hints that
person making
they'll-
Monster Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, there's hints that they, towards the end of the trailer, there might be a sense that they're starting to really respect what these monsters are about, rather than just being like, my God, they're monsters.
Yeah, I hope that what I would love is at the very end, because it obviously the final set piece is the Rathalos getting into our world, right? I'd hope that the
Well, not necessarily just the Rathalos.
Some
It could
monsters,
be-
yeah.
Do you not think they'll go for like an Elder Dragon or something to finish it? up?
Maybe.
Or is that me
I
thinking
think
too
maybe
much?
that Gormagala tease might.
But
be
what I would love would be if she was like, no, we don't want to kill it, we just want to send it back where it belongs. So the final mission is just a capture quest.
But then that would mean that they don't believe in killing, which is surely not a very Monster Hunter thing by the same logic.
Yeah, but Monster Hunter you only
Like,
kill if you
I
have
think,
to.
I think Monster Hunter is still, but it's still fine with killing,
Yeah.
and that they would have to. If there's a fucking Rathalos in our world, suddenly they would have to kill that Rathalos.
Right, but like in like something like 4, where the monsters are all going crazy, it's like, well, we don't want to just wipe out every monster ever. Let's kill the problem so they can all go back to live in harmony with nature. Sending the Rathalos back to its own world would solve the problem.
But I think they still have to kill that Rathalos.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to write this film off if they kill it.
Just
I'm just saying
logistically,
that would be
mate.
nice.
Logistically, how are you going to send a Rathalos back?
I don't know, how did they get it there in the first
very,
place?
Cooperative. It just fell through a portal or something.
Yeah, well,
Probably,
they're just
by
going to
accident.
knock it out and chuck it back through the portal. I've knocked out many a
Portals
Rathalos.
are-
Knock it out.
Yeah, we knock
Portals
out
are
Rathaloses
canonically
all the
in-
time.
Yeah, I suppose.
Portals are canonically in Monster Hunter because Geralt jumps through one. in the
That's
world,
true.
so-
It's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. There we go. Maybe Geralt will be in
So
the
I should
film.
pronounce
Maybe
Geralt.
that would be a twist.
Henry Cavill just rocks up. Gets
More
his
importantly,
silver
though,
sword out.
I want your thoughts on this this character turning up. So, the muscular chef. I'm reading. This is an article from Eurogamer. So the muscular chef, like the guy that runs the canteen world, the big like swole cat, if you remember him. Muscular chef will be getting the big screen treatment too. Paul Anderson, the director, describes the chef as a fantastic character who has a rather flirtatious relationship with Mila Jovovich.
Sounds great.
Excellent.
Right. Flirtatious doesn't mean that at the end of the film they fuck.
They're definitely
It's just going to be some banter. Monster Hunter Stories 2.
Right, moving on.
All right.
No, that's unfair.
Is that it? You
That's
just want-
unfair.
Is that our
Say
coverage
Monster
on
Hunter
Monster Hunter
Stories
Stories
2?
2? It's
How
been
much
announced.
did all of us play of one? I played the
Big
demo.
City.
I think I played to the first big city as well, yeah.
Yeah, I remember a big city like I could cut about, and people kept giving me costumes or eggs or something. I can't even remember. But ultimately, I was very, very tired of the tedious rock paper scissors combat.
Well, I tell you what, I played it. I didn't even know there was a Monster Hunter Stories. That's how little I knew of this thing. Although, as I understand it, it's quite a niche, not particularly. It wasn't particularly popular when it did come out. So
I don't
I'm
think
not
it like
surprised.
totally bombed.
I'm
but
not saying
it
it
was
was
just
a flop,
Yeah.
but that it was, you know.
Well, I mean, I think the game certainly didn't seem to get much of an audience, but I think there's like an anime.
The anime,
There's
yeah,
an
the
anime,
anime
right?
ran for like one season here in Japan. But the train station where my friend Rob lives, there's a Monster Hunter Stories anime poster up in the train station that's been there as long as I've lived here.
Because they love it so much.
I don't know. I have no
or-
idea why that poster has just stayed up all this time. I keep meaning to put a note underneath it saying, like, if you ever take this down, can I have it, please?
But I think it's quite funny in London at the moment. Like, there's still like adverts up from March, April, because obviously no one's buying adverts on the tube. At the
Right.
moment. So like, it's still like Doom Eternal coming soon, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's been out literally for half a year
The only
at this
ones-
point. But yes, I'm assuming that's not the same.
Well, yeah,
thing.
because this has been... It's been there for like 2.5 years at least, and probably like
Yeah,
2
yeah.
years before I got here.
It was 2016 that Stories came out, well, at least in the UK, if I remember right.
I think it came out after the... Oh, 2016?
I'm pretty sure either that or
No, because
2017.
I remember it coming out when I already had the Switch, and that's why I gave it so little time.
I think it was 2017 because I remember there was like a summer where the 3DS had kind of like a last hurrah
Yeah.
because you got Stories. I remember
Eternal Oasis.
Is
it Eternal Oasis?
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah.
and the Metroid 2 remake.
Yeah, it was October 2016 in Japan, so yeah, apparently, yeah, September 2017 for us.
That rings a bell, yeah, because there was definitely like a last
Ever
hurrah for the
Oasis?
3DS, but I think that's right, Andy. Yeah, but I think it was kind of unfortunate timing because, like Luke said, it came out whilst the Switch was firing all cylinders in that fantastic first year it had, and I don't think many people were buying 3DS games at that point. I know I picked up Stories, but I think very few people did.
Well,
Which was a shame because there was something to it, but I just, like Andy said, the combat just didn't work for me.
And I wasn't gaming that much at that point because that was when I was working 70 hours a week to save up to move to Japan.
Yes.
Well, now I can work 70 hours a week and not get paid overtime.
Hey. But it's cool that Stories 2 exists. I don't know if I'm going to be.
I think I'm going to try and give it a go. I don't know if it's going to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be super hyped for it, but
I having not even realised that the first game existed when you said, "Oh, you got to look up the trailer for this one." I was like, "Oh, all right." I think it looks really nice. Like the production quality of it looks nice. It gave me some very much Breath of the Wild vibes in terms of the character models and things. But what you do, other than it being some sort of RPG, I got no idea from the trailer alone.
The first one looked phenomenal for a 3DS game.
Mm-hmm.
It did look pretty good, yeah. It's basically a Pokemon. Well, there's Pokemon.
It's more like
you
Digimon World than Pokemon because you just have one at a time.
Yeah, but then it's not that kind of Tamagotchi aspect of the Digimon World, is it?
True.
Like it's still very much a Pokemon-esque one that you collect the eggs, you collect the monsters, and then you fight with them. But it's just the combat's odd. It's like rock paper scissors, and it just doesn't really work. But there is something to it, like the going about each big zone and finding different monsters, and wondering what's going to hatch from a monster egg you collect. That's all quite fun. It just didn't have the legs for me.
I think, ironically, that's kind of like Ni no Kuni to me. Like it's that was the exact thing that I struggled with in that game. That the combat was miserable, but it's such a nice world to be in, and the collection and monster catching is good.
Is it just that every other monster RPG tries so hard to not be Pokemon that they just make a battle system?
Yeah,
that
I think
sense?
that's the problem. Yeah, is that like Pokemon's battle system is not special. Like it's literally a average turn-based combat. But yes, people don't want to be Pokemon, so they don't replicate it. That's kind of why the Digimon Cyber Sleuth games worked. Is they did have such a simple, normal JRPG turn-based combat system. Like it was fun.
And Digimon World just didn't bother to have a combat system. You just better hope it fights.
Hell yeah!
Luke ate a poo.
I know. And the monsters poo. And they can eat the poo if they turn into certain types of monsters. Brilliant. Absolutely incredible game. Masterpiece.
I mean, I like Pokemon. I like Monster Hunter. But I would much rather be doing a Digimon podcast right now.
Well, I mean, if you can find us a fun multiplayer Digimon game for us all to play, by all means, let's just do it.
I say the only thing about the Stories 2 trailer that didn't do it for me at all. It was I didn't think the voice acting was very good. But I suppose
just whack it on Japanese.
It's part of the yeah, exactly. That sounds like, as long as it's got that option, that's entirely what I would do. Because the English voice acting seemed quite bad. It was a bit of a turn off for me. But I think I'm willing to give the demo a go and see if this unusual combat system does it for me or not.
Anyway, Monster Hunter Rise. That's basically the reason we're all here right now.
Yes.
I wouldn't be alive
kind
if it wasn't for this.
Damn it, beat me to it.
Definitely rekindled a fire in us for Monster Hunter, I think. Like that trailer dropping. The first thing that I did afterward was went to our group chat and me and Luke at the same time just typed "lads." We're so hyped for it already. Yeah, I think we were speaking earlier in the podcast about World and some of the things we didn't like about World. But the things that we did like, such as the zones being no loading zones between the zones, and the monsters interacting with each other, and the weapons feeling a bit more fluid than the older games. All of that still seems to be there, but they seem to be fixing a lot of the complaints that we had with World, such as the single player multiplayer not being separate. The zones maybe being a bit too complex for their own good, things like that. And I am 100% down for Rise, 100% down.
Yeah, the main thing for me with World was just the quest system just didn't give me just here's a nice list of quests and you can fight some monsters in them.
I mean, there was a list, but yeah, it wasn't as well refined by any means. I think, yeah, like, and the way it was ticked off and unlocking some of those special arenas and stuff was definitely a pain in the ass. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, I'm not saying there wasn't a list, but just I like this. You just walk up to the bird at the counter, say, "I want to hunt a monster." She's like, "What monster do you want to hunt?" I'm like, that one," and you go hunt it, and you get a big nice tick. That's all I need. And then, yeah, if you can have a seamless map and some turf wars in there, oh, yeah.
Oh, God, yes. I like the one of the things I think particularly stood out in this trailer for me was the freedom of movement that your characters seem to have, like with the climbing and the swinging around. And that's one of the real joys of World as well, I think, is not just the fact that the world is quite seamless, but it's apart from like maybe the jungle map, which is a bit too dense, and it's quite easy to traverse. And there are obviously very particular bits that you're meant to climb, which I assume has always been in the Monster Hunter games. But this one seems like it's taken it to a bit more of a free form state, and I like the potential to. I hope that for a new player, it's one of those systems that's easy to use, but to actually master it, there's an awful lot of depth there, and it looks like maybe that could be the case. I don't know how you boys feel.
Well, yeah, since that first trailer, Gaijin Hunter has been putting out a lot of Monster Hunter Rise content, as you'd expect. And from what I've seen from the Tokyo Game Show stuff and from interviews, the actual number of inputs you can do with that wire bug is only a couple, and it's just you just get good at stringing them together in interesting ways. There's like launch me up, launch me to the side, dangle for a bit, and you map them together into interesting movements to get all around the map.
I think it'll be how you use the wire bug in combat that will really make the game really shine for me. Like in the trailer, I think you saw a great sword. Like he does a charge in midair, then wires in, and then does a slam on the monster's head, and just stuff like that. You just gets the blood pumping. Like that's really really fucking cool. And I can't wait to see the other weapons, how they use the wire bug and what sort of moves you can pull off with the wire bug. Let alone the traversal aspect, which I think is great. And of course you've got the Palamute to also get around the map quickly. So they seem to be really streamlining the traversal aspect in terms of how the zones were. Sometimes it was a pain to get from across the map in World. I know Andy's got some thoughts on that, but I think it's going to be a big improvement in Rise for traversal in general.
Just imagining like the four of us on steeds riding into battle is just such a cool concept to me.
And the new monsters look great as well. Like I think they've already nailed some top notch designs. Like I like the big hippo fella. He looks going to be good fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, so just after World came out, like literally 4 days later, I moved to Japan, and then suddenly Monster Hunter got really big in the West, and being in Japan didn't feel necessary as a Monster Hunter fan. But this one looks like it's gone super Japanese, so I'm looking forward to weebing it up hardcore. Like they got all the shrines everywhere, you've got the very Japanese village, and then all the monsters that we've seen so far are sort of based on Japanese yokai.
Got the big hippo fella, got the fire-breathing bird.
Yep. Well, it's like a kappa. That one's like the possessed umbrella thing. There's the dinosaur one they've showed is basically based on the same yokai that Sneasel is. And then the concept of the calamities in Japanese, it's a much longer, more complicated name, which is based on a festival where the demons are meant to like parade through the town or whatever.
I think you're already set for the rise of monster episodes when those come around.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be... You're not going to be able to shut me up. Hopefully there's not going to be any Just a Dinosaur episodes.
The only slight downside for me is that I don't think the flagship they're showing off is particularly impressive.
It kind of just looks like a variant
Zenogre-esque sort of deal. Yeah.
But presumably he's only going to be like the first flagship, and then there'll be some sort of Elder Dragon as well, right?
Yeah, like there's definitely something more surprising and cool there in the background.
We don't even know if he is the flagship who's going to be on the box yet, right?
Have they not said he is the flagship?
I don't know if they have. It was like in World, it was a long time before we saw No Gigante, who was officially
But
the
they
flagship.
did talk. They did talk a lot about him, right? I don't know. I thought that was a big thing that they
They
chatted
made him
about.
sound
but
like he's going to be a big story event, but that might just be like the first act.
Yeah,
You could
possibly.
easily put together a trailer for World where Anjanath is the big bad.
Yeah, it's true. True. Cool. I think that's
Yep,
it.
it's going to be nice playing a Monster Hunter game on my Switch that feels like it was made in this millennium.
Yes, I think some of the trappings of the older games, like it's what kind of made me loath to go back to Generations Ultimate after being, playing World and such as that. The combat is definitely charming. It's definitely it's still fun in its own way, but it is clunky. You can't say it's not when you compare it to the likes of World, where it's so fluid and fast. And I love seeing that they've taken that element from World, applied it to the old formula. I think Rise is going to do absolutely gangbusters for us.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Let's hope so.
So next time, it's all Zora the Explorer.
Oh,
It's
God.
Zora Magdaros.
Why do you
To
say
make
it so
a joke,
venomously?
you just said it.
Next time it's Sora the Explorer.
I thought you were going to be like, well, we're talking about upcoming games, but we're not done exploring the new world,
Let's go
so
for
it's going to
an
be...
explore.
Nope.
Yeah. Literally just straight in there. Zora the Explorer!
That was the most finesse outro I've ever. Brilliant.
So yeah, look forward to that one. Zora Magdaros, big old boy. I'm sure we're going to have lots of fun chatting about him.
If you enjoy listening to this podcast, you can find us on Twitter at Monster Mash Pod. We're also on Facebook and YouTube. Just search Monster Mash Podcast. Be sure to give us a like and review. Make sure you follow. If this is your first time listening, there's 88 previous episodes you can listen to. Pick a monster you like and give it a listen. That'll give you a feel for what the podcast is going to be like. And hopefully going forwards, we're going to get back to that with the Monster Hunter World monsters, and then later the Monster Hunter Rise monsters. For the time being, we're only going to commit to an episode every other week, but if we start getting a nice backlog going, then we might move back up to weekly like we were originally. Anyway, Mus, what should they tweet at AndyMan949?
Give us some bread.
I was going to say
That
they
was-
should
that
tweet
was
at
supposed to be a
AndyMan949 what they think fridges taste like.
Yeah, I mean that makes more sense, but I don't know. My flawless.
Surely that isn't making it into the podcast.
Oh, I might stick it in at
Oh,
the
it is
end, just
now.
to give them a taste of what they've got coming.
Give them a taste. Give them
A taste of the
Give 'em a
fridge.
taste of fridge.
Yeah, that's true. Andy. If I think tweeting him about bread is fine, but if you want to send him a direct message about, what fridge
DMs
tastes
are
like-
Everyone, please send us a
DM.
video of you tasting your fridge.
Right, goodbye everybody.
Peace.
See ya.
Bye.
See